This is Cheol Hee, professor at the Graduate School of International Studies at Seoul National University, and I am a director of the Institute of International Affairs at Seoul National University as well.
How is the coronavirus epidemic in your country at this moment?
The overall situation in Korea is getting better than before. Actually, we reached a peak of crisis at the end of February. The number of daily infected reached a peak on February 28th, and we thought we are out of the tunnel in early May, but we had a long weekend in May, and actually after the long weekend we found a few more were infected by the coronavirus. So we are not sure yet, but the overall number of the infected are getting smaller. As of May 25th, a total of 11,206 people were infected by COVID-19, and 269 passed away because of the coronavirus. But the daily number is getting smaller. As of May 25th, only 16 people were confirmed to be infected. So it reached a kind of two-digit in tens after 4 days. So the whole overall situation is really stabilizing. And the government announced a plan to reopen the school on the 25th of May. Still, the people will be very cautious in sending their children to school, but because of the yearly schedule of the test and the university entrance exam, we are compelled to open the whole school from the 25th of May. But the Ministry of Education gave an indication that the total number of the students coming to school should be under 2/3 of the total number of the school in a day. So I think this school will coordinate the overall number of the students coming to school. But it's a very happy news that students can go to school, and then parents can do work. For a long time, many stayed home without going out to restaurants or tourist spots and other places. But of course, even at this moment, all the people going on the street wear masks and then try to maintain some social distance, some distancing from others. But people are moving a lot, and then cars are increasing on the street. And then if you go to the restaurants, more and more people are drinking, chatting, and then having conversation. Not until midnight, but they usually stay at restaurants around 9 o'clock. So this is a very good sign. So compared to other countries, Korea is doing better. Very interestingly, South Korea had a general election in the middle of the coronavirus. On a election day, the April 15th, the voting rate was very high, and the ruling party won the election. Many people thought that would be a kind of very tight race between the ruling and opposition party, but actually out of 300 seats, the ruling party obtained 180 seats, which is a kind of remarkable achievement for the ruling party. And the people believe that that's because of the kind of very good performance of the South Korean government in coping with the coronavirus situation. So people gave very high score to the Moon incumbent president and then Moon administration. So I think this is a kind of very unusual experiment for South Korean democracy, in a sense that we had the national election in the middle of the coronavirus. Despite this pandemic, people went to ballot, keeping social distance with others, but they did the regular business despite all the troubles in Korea. I think this is a kind of very remarkable situation compared to other countries.
What is the current political, economic, and social situation in your country in connection with the coronavirus?
Socially, people are still very cautious when going outside. Still, if you go out, all the people are wearing masks, and even they use public transportation like a bus, taxi, or subways. Almost all the people are wearing masks in order not to avoid any kind of unnecessary troubles to others, and then to avoid any kind of spread of the potential virus to others. So the situation that we are not at the end of the tunnel, but still getting much better than before. Economically, we are in deep trouble, and then government begins the distributing the emergency the support fund to the people, and many of the corporations are in deep trouble, especially the small and medium enterprises are experiencing very dire economic hardship. The people are not coming back to the restaurants yet fully. Tourist spots are empty still. Hotel reservations and then resort places, still people do not go there that much. So the medium and small enterprise people are in deep trouble, but it is not only the small and medium enterprise people, and even the big corporations in some sectors are still experiencing difficulties, especially the airline companies like Korean Airlines and Asiana Airlines. They are experiencing a cash deficit at this moment, so government is giving some subsidies to the big corporations like that. The hotel business is not coming back yet. Also, the tourist places are, you don't have that many tourists at this moment. So I think this phenomenon will go on for a couple of months more. But slowly coming back to the normal business. So, but the pace will be very slow. The politically very interesting phenomena is that the popularity of the President Moon is going higher and higher and higher than before. As of the May 25th, the endorsement rate of the President Moon recorded at 62.3%, which is unusually high, and then his popularity remained beyond the 60% for more than 5 weeks. So in the beginning of this pandemic, the ruling party and then the President Moon experienced the kind of lowering down of his popularity, but it's coming back and it's getting higher, because the news that Korea is performing better than other countries became a blessing for the ruling party and the President Moon. I think this phenomena will go on for a couple of weeks more, and I think if it depends on whether the economic situation is getting better or go deeper down to the lower status. So we have to see, but at the moment the political popularity of the ruling party and then president is very high, unlike other countries. This is another difference from other advanced countries.
What is the particularity, according to you, of your country's reaction vis-a-vis the corona crisis?
South Korea rather successfully managed this pandemic situation because of the dedication of the medical people, including doctors and nurses, and then all the people voluntarily cooperated to the government guidelines to keep social distancing and then they didn't go out to the resort places or the entertainment places over the weekends. So relatively well managed, And then Korea relied on very proactive measures of managing this crisis and introduced the so-called 3T method, which is a very extensive test and extensive tracing of the potential infectants, and then extensive treatment of the people. So the test and trace and treat really worked in terms of handling this situation. I think this kind of method has been developed after we experienced MERS, the Mediterranean, what is the name of the system? The MERS. Middle Eastern
respiratory
symptom. So after this, the MERS in 2016, the Korean government realized the importance of establishing the control center like American CDC. So the CDC in Korea worked very well, even though the general populace did not believe in the ministers saying, but they believed in what the head of the CDC in Korea said to the public. So I think this kind of system has been established after 2016, and then it helped us to prepare for the coming spread of the pandemic in Korea. And then people followed the manuals provided by the CDC very well, and also the Korean people didn't have any kind of resistance to wear masks when they go out, because even before this coronavirus, because of the increasing density of PM2.5 and the dust, people were wearing masks on the street when they go out. So this reduced the potential of spreading this coronavirus widely to the people. And it was not that much a good thing, but in the beginning of the spread of this COVID-19, it started and concentrated in a single area called the Daegu, which is connected to some religious sect in Korea. So because of the wide spread of this coronavirus in a short period of time, that gave a lot of alert and warning to the people in other areas, and people remained very cautious. And then they knew the danger of contacting people, and then they knew that this can be contagious very rapidly and very early stage. So they showed lots of caution, which contributed to the relative stability of the situation in a shorter period of time. And one good thing about the South Korean case is that unlike many countries who relied on the method of shutting down the facility and then lock out all the movement of the people, South Korea allowed the people to move around, but the people voluntarily cooperated to the government guideline, and then they moved around, but they kept the guideline of keeping 2 meters between people and wearing masks, and then used the preparatory the drugs and others. So I think that helped, and it turned out to be a very successful method to stop further deterioration of the situation. So overall, South Korea performed better than others and better than expected.
How do you envision the post-corona world?
I think that after this coronavirus, the world will be changed a lot, and then it will not be the same as the so-called before corona situation. That's the reason why they're talking about BC and AC, before corona and after corona. I don't think you can go back to the good old days, but I don't think that the future will be that much gloomy or tragic. I think the overall situation will take a very different forms. For example, in the movement of the people across the borders, I think people and government would be very cautious. So it will reduce the movement of people across the nations, which will give some negative effect to the airline companies and then the hotel companies and then tourism spots. But I think people will still cross over the borders in order to enjoy the foods and people and culture of other countries. But they will be much more cautious than before. Some people are expecting this is the end of globalization. And of course, any government will try to protect their citizens first. So the protecting their own citizens would remain as a priority of any government. But I don't think any government will block the foreigners from coming to their own countries to enjoy their culture, food, and people. So I think that even though the overall movement will be smaller and slower, the Beijing mechanism would remain the same. Also, I think there would be a kind of a strong temptation to bring their companies working in overseas, bringing back to their home country. But because of the wages and taxes and the regulations, there will be clearly a limit to bring all of them to home country. I think there will be a more and more diversification of production facilities. So the global production network will be restructured, possibly in a way that to reduce the over-reliance on China. And then I think Southeast Asia countries and other countries will be benefited from this tendency. But still, I think for a short period of time, the world will experience a very serious economic crisis, especially latter half of this year, and then all the first half of next year. So this will be a kind of a global phenomenon, and I think all the countries should cooperate to get over this situation and to get out of the tunnel. But I think there will be a kind of increasing instances of transnational cooperation in preventing the spread of this kind of pandemic to other countries. And also countries should cooperate in order to handle the medical crisis situation. I think the countries will help each other in some way. Also, I think the countries will cooperate to develop vaccines and drugs, and then to avoid the further development of a pandemic like this. The great challenge is to re-establish the authority of the World Health Organization and then restructure the way to handle this kind of global crisis, a global medical crisis. I think that's a kind of challenge that remains. And then some people are arguing that countries will build the walls and fortresses and try to protect their own borders from others. But I don't think that's possible. The globalization in terms of in exchanging information and goods and services will remain. I don't think that will go away. So we don't have to be that much gloomy about the future, but we will have some transformed way of handling the situation. So we have to see what kind of new structure, new governance system, new transaction structure will come up in the future.